All right, you're welcome back to the show. With us this morning in the studio are Emeka Rao. Emeka Rao is a public affairs analyst. Good morning, Emeka. Glad to have you.
Good morning to you, Chairman.
Thanks for having me.
All right, we also have with us this morning Emmanuel Ibebike Mbechi, also public affairs analyst. Good morning, Emmanuel.
Yeah, good morning, Dianambra. Good morning, sister.
All right, glad to have you on the show this morning. We are going to kickstart the show by reading out the stories trending on ABS website this morning. The very first story we have, Aswama cautions Anambra residents against the indiscriminate dumping of refuse. Domestic staff cuts off body parts of 72-year-old woman for rituals at Umunze in Orumba South local government area. And we also have there, INEC reassures Nigerians of hitch-free governorship and state assembly elections. All right, here are the trending stories on ABS website this morning. So over to you, Emeka.
All right. Thank you once again for having me. Perhaps we look at the first issue which talked about indiscriminate dumping of refuse. Like we all did witness recently, the very first major rains of the year, okay, and then so that coming at a time like this, I think it is apt, all right. In Anambra State, we have had that culture, right, deep-seated culture of indiscriminate dumping of wastes, here and there, which end up clogging our drainage lines, and then with its devastating impacts, and consequences for us. So that coming at a time like this, I think it is early and apt, and then the Anambra must buy into it and take responsibility, okay, for their environment. I would want to think that on the part of the media too, there should be efforts to deepen this perspective and have our people, and by so doing, have our people keen to it. The government must not fail also on its responsibility of, like I would always insist, that it is not enough, right? It is not enough to say to Nigerians, to the Anambra where do this. You must also be able to wield the big stick and use it when necessary, regardless of who is involved. So that I would want to think that the state, institutions and agencies that are responsible for this would swing into action immediately and ensure that we are able to avoid the floodings that we get to witness, every now and then.
Okay, thank you for that submission. Emmanuel.
Good morning, sister. Good morning, Dianambra, once again. I also want to say something on what they have said already about the Aswama cautions Anambra residents against indiscriminate dumping of refuse. This has been a very serious problem, even as it affects the people living in the area. The Anambra State government have been spending much in making sure that Anambra people has the good health they desire. That is the silting of gutters and clearing of those dumps in everywhere of Anambra. But people keep dumping refuse in some areas that are not supposed. The government have made a provision of places where they're supposed to have been dumping such refuse. But our people normally, that is normally how they behave. I can't just say, but that has been their life. So it is very good that the people in charge should swim in action, as my colleague here have said. They should start doing something. They must make out a penalty of people that fail to dump refuse where it's supposed to be. I think this will help in managing it. Thank you.
Sorry, you may have been chiming a little on that once again. I recall that only recently the Mr. Soludo-led administration introduced a new vista to waste management and waste collection, right? But it is important, I think, that I point out that there is still a whole lot to be done in terms of these waste collectors, okay, because I have come to observe that there are several areas where they fail to reach. And so I think this is an area, of course, that the government must have to look into in order that they reach every nook and cranny of our society so that people do not have reasons, okay, to dump refuse and waste indiscriminately.
All right, thank you so much for that submission. Also, I want us to look at the reassurance coming from INEC. Yes.
Thank you. I wanted to say something on that before he adapted to what I'm saying. Okay, let me start from here. INEC have assured Nigeria, not only in the Anambra, even before now, that they are going to do something on the presidential election. But now they are reassuring again that they are going to do something different. I don't know. If possible, it will be good. But from my own opinion, INEC failed Nigeria in the last election. And everybody knows that. Even the INEC itself knows. So that is my contribution.
So, but now you feel they are reassuring. You don't think that they are going to do anything different?
Let's wait and see what they have. We don't trust INEC again until we see what they have.
Well, I feel it's just a part of telling people to come out on Saturday to come and vote, because a lot of people are already saying that they are no longer interested in coming out for the state assembly and governorship election. But seeing this reassurance that probably they are going to right their wrongs, I mean, the performance of beavers and other things, I think this is like telling people that please come out, we are going to do it better this time.
Well, Chidima, if you permit me, I would say with every sense of responsibility that what INEC enacted some 2 Saturdays ago was a total charade, right? It was a disappointment, not for Nigerians alone, but for the global community, right? Because a whole lot was expected. And what did we get? Nigerians hoped to put our nation on the path of quality leadership by putting in place a government they could call their own for the very first time in a very long while, right? But what INEC did was to torpedo this process, regardless of what many assurances it had given, okay, before this very election, regardless of the billions of naira that was made available to it, including in cash. Okay, not minding the challenges Nigerians were having, you know, as it had to do with cash, but the Central Bank of Nigeria ensured that INEC got all I needed, okay, to make that process work in terms of cash, okay. In terms of laws, in terms of legislation, INEC got that, all that it asked for, right? In spite of that, we had this charade which they want to make us believe was an election. So if they had 4 years to plan for this election, right, and then they came up with that miasma, what are we going to have? What do they expect that we hope for, within a period of 2 weeks? So it's not about assurance. INEC has failed, and even if it does get the forthcoming governorship and state assembly polls right, I don't think it is going to correct the harm that has been done. It is most unfortunate because millions of Nigerians came out to vote for the very first time, including those who had been far above 18 years, right, who had never voted all their lives. Okay, they came out to vote because they believed in the process. They felt that for the very first time their votes were going to count. But what did we get out of it? INEC torpedoed the entire. So it is really, really disheartening, and so that the assurance it is given, if you ask me, I take it with a pinch of salt until I see what plays out. But even if it does, I don't think it is going to make up for that charade that we had, only recently.
Okay. Thank you for that submission. We are all entitled to our own opinion, of course, and we pray that the assurance that they are giving that is going to work out. Okay. So quickly, let's go over to the first paper this morning. That's the Daily Sun newspaper, with the big story there. U.S. opens up on February 25 polls. Says a whole electoral process failed to meet Nigeria's expectations, backs desire for responsive and inclusive governance. And then of there, Enugu Guba group threatening mayhem, sponsored by politicians. IPOB. Ayu Okowa lead black uniform protest at INEC headquarters today. Commission APC arranged presidential poll, Igbo lawyers allege. Oyogiba, Labour Party candidate, party escorts fell apart over adoption of Makinde. Petrol scarcity returns to Abuja. It will soon be over, NMPL, PCL. Yoruba monarchs urge Tinubu to use victory for Nigeria's unity in greatness. Article to INEC chair, your promise of credible Giba election medicine after death. Commission should review presidential poll results, declaration as provided by law. And then Naira redesign confusion as CBN keeps mute over Supreme Court ruling. Businesses, transporters reject old Naira notes. Okay. These are the stories trending in the front page of the Daily Sun newspaper. Emmanuel, let's start with you.
Nigeria. Okay, thank you. Let me start from this Naira redesign issue. The issue of redesigning of Naira, last week we heard from the Supreme Court that it has made the old Naira to be legal tender in banks and other places, but Nigeria has first to collect the old cash because the president of Nigeria have not said anything. The CBN governor has not said anything. So Nigeria, we have different organizations and they have their laws. And the president have power to tell us. The other time, the Supreme Court said something like this and the case was adjourned and the Buhari, as the president of Nigeria, came out on a live broadcast and told Nigeria that using of old cash, old Naira has ended. That is going to reintroduce the 200 Naira old notes till April 10. April 10. That is what we have agreed on. We don't know any other thing until we hear from the MFLA and the president of Nigeria. So and, whatever
I mean, maybe that's the reason why they say that there is confusion in the country, because people are confused. I know a whole lot of people that still have the old Naira notes. They were jubilating the day the Supreme Court made that pronouncement that is still going to be a legal tender till 31st of December. Let me just but then again, if you use it to go and transact business, nobody will want to accept it.
Let me tell you this. I come from a very typical village. Like I come from Omo in Ayamem local government where there is no bank. There are old women who doesn't have a bank account. They still have this old Naira. Even personally, I went to CBN. I complained to them. Is there anything we can do to get this old cash from these people? They still have it. What do we do? They said there's nothing they can do unless they can come and pay the money to their account. They don't have account. They don't have access to bank. So what do? Nothing.
And perhaps because they claim they don't have the new Naira notes, there's no how you can bring the money and they will exchange it for you. No, because if there is abundance of the new notes, these people you are talking about, they can bring the old notes and you just change it for them.
Even if not that, I expected CBN in Anambra, knowing fully that we have some villages that are inside, to do a kind of swamping of Naira that they are doing in Kanu and some other states that are inside. Like in Anambra here, we have places like Nzam, Olum Banasa, Inom Aketo. All these places, you hardly go there. There's nothing like bank. They only hear bank on their ears. So, and even in Ayamelmu here, bank CBN supposed to have gone around, exchange and swamp the old Naira with the new Naira with the people living in those areas, because they know they don't have access to it. Like now, the other day I came from Omo to Oka here. My transport from there to here is 1,300 naira. I went to Fidelity Bank there, and they are giving 5,000 naira from the counter. If they gave me 5,000, my transport is 1,300. Going back is 1,300. That is 2,600. 2,004 is what left. So I don't think it's advisable.
Well, I feel for those people, yeah. But isn't there a way that you people can organize yourself? I mean, in the communities, maybe somebody would bring out his or her account, and probably they pay the money into the person's account, and later they will look for a way to give back these people their money. I don't understand if after the end of at the end of the day, what are they going to do with the old Naira notes?
Well, you see. There is a systemic challenge here, and I don't know how this is going to pan out, but in fact, let me begin by saying, of course, only recently we had a Supreme Court statement on the matter, okay, directing that the old notes remain legal tenders until about, December. But you see, and that has partly led to the eroding of confidence in our judicial system, particularly the Supreme Court. And why do I say this? Because ab initio, the Apex Court boxed itself into a cul-de-sac, right? I'm not a lawyer, but I know that the concept of jurisdiction in law is trite. Okay, it is common knowledge, jurisdiction. And so when you begin to ask, does the court have the jurisdiction to entertain this matter, which was the question people raised from the word go, right? And where that is lacking, where is the onus on the CBN to obey this legal directive? Where is that? And we saw that happen the last time. Okay, it was until Mr. President came out to direct that address the issue. So I do not, to my mind, think that the CBN is going to obey that judgment on account of this issue of jurisdiction, right? And you are going to have us immersed in this cul-de-sac, and I don't know how it pans out. But if you ask me, I know many Nigerians go through menacing challenges on account of this new policy, but there are benefits to it, which we must acknowledge. There are benefits to it. Within the period, the CBN has raked in trillions of naira, okay, which were outside the bank vaults. That will do some good to the economy. I know that in our rural areas, in fact, even in our cities here in Oka, people are challenged by the absence of cash.
Before you continue, I want to ask you a question. Do you think that with this redesigning of Naira, that people are not still going to pack up this new Naira note at home?
Now, the question is this. Fine, people will, and that is one of the problems we have. Nigerians must learn to transition to the new era of e-payment. We must. I acknowledge that the infrastructure, the technological infrastructure is not there yet. It is largely lacking. But it's a gradual process. We will get there. I face challenges, but I think there are benefits to it. Now, why would people want to keep cash? Why would you want to keep cash, right? If you know you can transact, through the e-channels, and if they are running effectively, those are the infrastructural challenges.
We have so many reasons why people want to keep cash at home. So many people don't even trust the services of the commercial banks. There are so many reasons why people. So until we address those factors,
but it is a gradual thing. You don't keep millions in your house and you wait for this to be addressed. Okay. It is an evolving process. Okay,
let's not dwell so much on that. We still have other papers to discuss this morning. I wish this is just a topic. We'll go on and discuss that. But quickly, let's go back to the National Star newspaper this morning. And a better headline there: Nigeria's presidential election failed to meet expectations coming from the U.S. Backs Atiku Obi on challenge of polls result. And why Tinubu is not winner of 2023 presidential election, Ozokeme. LCC of Egypt assures Tinubu of continued support. And then out there, former VC Oloyede gets 5 years for 5 years for $1.2 million fraud. Houseboy orders harvest 72-year-old woman's organs for ritual in Anambra. Naira redesign directs CBN to implement Supreme Court order. Serap tells Buhari, don't set Enugu ablaze. Ohaneze youth warn politicians. Shock as Liverpool trash Man United 7-0. PDP to protest at INEC office today over election result. And we still have Rivers Collation Officer Prof. Adias alleges threat to life week after results announcements. Okay, let's quickly look at the topics.
Let me start. I want to start from where they said why Tinubu is not the winner of 2023 presidential election by Mike Ezekome, his son. I read that news, and the man made a very big point. And as it is, election is a process. Election is a process that has its law. But INEC refused to follow that law in declaration of the winner of 2023 presidential election. The process is this. The person that is going to be the president of Nigeria must score two-thirds of the state. You must win two-thirds of the state. Then you must win 25% of the FCT. These are the process. But INEC failed to obey the law to that process. It's a very big shame to Nigerian INEC. And I don't think that redeeming this image is very hard, because they will hardly redeem the image. They have done a whole lot of damages to Nigerian. But let's just be looking at it and see what the court has to say, because the people in charge, Obi, Atiku, they have all gone to court. Let's hear from the court and see what the decision is all about.
Emeka.
Yeah, the U.S. ambassador to Nigeria, did speak on this, and then of course again highlighting what we already knew, talking about the flawed character of the election. But she went ahead to applaud the steps taken by the major opposition parties, the LP and then, the PDP, to get judicial statements on the results announced. I think that is where we are. It is like the biblical mene mene tekel upharsin, it is visible to the blind and then audible to the deaf that the elections are flawed. It is no news. Now, we wait to see what will come out of it from the judiciary. But if you follow trend, right, with what has happened recently, you would recall that only a couple of years ago we had somebody who came forth in a gubernatorial election in Nigeria, been declared by the court as governor, and he's serving today. I only recently, a couple of minutes ago, was talking about the question of jurisdiction, right? So when you have all these, the apex court, the Supreme Court, shrouded in all this, confusion, how much hope does it leave in the minds of Nigerians, in terms of what would be the outcome of these litigations we see in court? Honestly, if you ask me, I do not have so much hope in it. But I wish and I pray that the Supreme Court surprises me. However, it is most unfortunate, it is most bemusing that at this age and time when Kenya could organize a largely credible elections, Nigeria is still, we are still where we were. Apologies to Mr. Vice President. So the point I'm making is that Nigerians are most disappointed, and the decision by the major oppositions to head to court, of course, it's the right step to take. But I tell you what, when a robber, an armed robber, steals from you and then advises you to go to court, what would you expect? What would you expect? It readily tells you that
I will be expecting that he has hope.
Very well.
He has
Very
hope
well.
in
so,
that.
And that is why I'm
So
saying
that is
I
the
pray
problem.
that the court surprises me by doing the right thing.
Yes.
Okay. However, Nigerians must learn that to effect thorough change in our system, to my mind, really, it goes beyond electioneering. It goes beyond voting, right? Why is it that in our climate we do not see peaceful street protests? Peaceful, okay? Note that. Peaceful, street protests of millions of Nigerians. You know, there is this tendency for us to, regardless of how we feel, okay, you hear people say to you that, we are leaving it to God, right? Yeah. God has done his bit. There is so much left for us to do. And one of those things left for us to do is to invest our time and resources also by way of peaceful marches and protests. Let's get to the barricade and do what we ought to do. It's happening in other places. In fact, even in the US, it happened as developed as their democracy is. So we should not always sit back to think that God from high up there is going to fix things. He has done that which we should do.
We should do it to ourselves.
Yes.
God will not come down here to do it.
Because don't forget, it's important that I note this. In 2019, you had something similar to this, only that now they have upped the game in terms of manipulation of results, right? Yet people went to court, and what did we get? The matter was decided on the basis of what they call technicalities. Okay, so you didn't get judgment on the basis of the facts and evidence on the ground. So it's not impossible that we are going to have that.
You are talking
again.
about the protest, peaceful protest, so to say. You're talking about what results are we going to achieve at the end of the day?
People have done it and they have
in a country like ours.
In a country like Nigeria, they don't have any regard for protest. You can take what happened in the EndSARS protest as a case study. Look at that.
I tell you what, brother. I tell you what. Does it not amaze you that right here in the news you see PDP governors going for
There is planning for protest today
at the INEC office and mobilizing their members to dress in black? They know, but the ruling elite in Nigeria across political parties, okay, do not want this culture to be deepened because they are aware that at some point Nigerians would also employ it against them when they go the wrong way. It is the culture that is lacking. It is the culture that is lacking. In fact, on the basis of what has happened in the last election, those who control the polity of this country, right, want to tell Nigerians that however you wish to change this country, that you can, and by so doing they discourage Nigerians from trying. That is what they want to do, and that is why I appeal to people not to be discouraged, to continue to push. And so that you were just mentioning what happened during the EndSARS, what have you. That was yet another one of the many attempts, okay, to silence Nigerians by way of intimidation, by way of killing. And so that is it. They don't want that culture to be built. But we must say no, knowing that changing this country, transforming this country for good, goes very well beyond election.
I believe you. While we are trying on that aspect of peaceful protest, let's also be having hope in the court, because what happened in this election is a broad daylight robbery, where you will be seeing a result written boldly, and the calculation will be different from what you calculate from Nigeria. I don't just know what is happening here, but let's just be duty.
Well, we are doing our bit right here in the studio, talking about some of the topics that are being raised on the front pages of the newspapers this morning. All right, quickly, let's see what we have on the front page of the Punch newspaper and the Daily Independent. We're going to take it together. But just to remind you that you can also be part of the discussion ongoing in the studio this morning. All you need to do is just to pick up your telephone and dial the number displayed in front of your television set this morning. And remember that when you call us, you switch off or you turn down the volume on your television so that we can be hearing you from this end. Now, let's go over to the Punch newspaper. Presidential poll. PDP governors leaders to protest at INEC today. That's the banner headline which riders there. PDP insists election flood. APC urges peaceful demonstration. Residents fear arrest. Hoodlums hijack. Police promise protection. And then you can see of the Ababio Carlo holders begin battle for Senate presidency. Few FX subsidies removal will save federal government 10 trillion naira report. Observers demand Rex prosecution for alleged sabotage. And then we can see down there, Tinubu visits Oba Akiolu, promises not to disappoint Nigeria. We can see that that's a picture in the front page of the Punch newspaper. Prepare for severe flooding, NEMA warns Nigerians. Soldiers shoot 15-year-old boy, keke operator dead in Lagos State. And then let's also see what we have at the front page of the Daily Independent. Old Naira notes, pressure mounts on CBN to obey Supreme Court ruling. Bank expects Apex Bank's directive today. Airline loses 10 billion naira as passenger traffic drops over elections. Rivers APC crisis escalates ahead of Cuba and state assembly polls. My life under threat, says Rivers Presidential Election Coalition officer. Bandits kill DPOs, Sergeant Vigilante abduct women in Zamfara. Atiku berates INEC chairman and promise for credible governorship poll. And then we can still see there, presidential election. Okowa leads governors, senators, reps and others in protest and march to INEC office. And Serap demands Buhari's measure on Supreme Court's old Naira note ruling. You can see that on page 7 of the Daily Independent newspaper. Okay, so quickly let's analyze some of the burning headlines on the front pages of the Punch and the Daily Independent newspaper this morning.
All right, let's look at what you have on the front page of one of the issues you have on the front page of the Punch, which is Tinubu visits Oba Akiolu and then promises to not to disappoint Nigerians. I think at a time like this, it's only normal. Okay, it is only appropriate that the president-elect, regardless of the many issues surrounding the result as was announced, should try to build bridges, okay, placate some persons who are aggrieved, right, and see how he can once again unite Nigeria, so that what he has done is very well in order. But you ask me, when he promises not to disappoint Nigerians, you look at a lot of the baggages with which he came into the elections, and you begin to ask yourself if really this person can deliver good governance.
It's all your thoughts. Right. I think we have a caller. Hello, good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Good morning. This is Ejike.
Ejike, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm calling from Malta.
All right, go ahead, Ejike.
I want to chip in something. You cannot, if the government is illegitimate, it is illegitimate. There is nothing, you can see that these guys are fighting over who's going to become the Senate president and other things. There is stolen mandate. You are fighting over who to become state president, or there is stolen mandate. Let me tell you something. People will won this election, clear and fair. And you're going to recover that election. People is going to retrieve his mandate. The Supreme Court has, they have to sit up, otherwise, if they do the wrong thing, they are going to put this country into a serious problem they can never contain in their life. So let us do the right thing. The party, Labour Party has gone to court, PDP has gone to court. People do the right thing and declare the winner.
All right.
Talk about this thing, Tinubu is doing or not, whether he want to go and defeat people or not. He is not elected, you know. Good morning. Have a wonderful day.
Good morning. Thank you so much. And quickly, just to remind us that it's not in our power to say who won the election and who lost the election. So we are waiting on the court, the verdict from the court, because they have appealed. Please, let's be guided when we are doing our contributions this morning.
Yeah, so I was actually wanting to speak to the issue of what legitimacy, like he did point out. You don't, steal my property and then you ask me to calm down, that you're going to administer it wisely, also to my benefit, right? I think the process should actually begin from a credible election, and that way you gain legitimacy. That at the moment appears to be lacking. Then Alhaji Bola Tinubu was one of the kingmakers, who brought on board Mr. President, President Muhammadu Buhari. And if you ask me, he has remained a major stakeholder within the party, determining what happens. Now, what have we had in the last 8 years from a government in which you were deeply involved? What have we had? Now, what is going to be different? That said, so the point I'm trying to make really is that I do not hope to see much of a difference, going forward. However, we must endeavor to hold these people by their words. The president-elect, in the course of his campaigns, did say that a 4-year course will be a 4-year course, right? That there will be students' loans, I think, and so on and so forth. A plethora of them, promises made here and there, right? I think what Nigerians should do at a time like this, regardless of what we get from the courts, is to hold on to these promises and hold Mr. Tinubu by his words, if he eventually becomes. And on that basis, we are able to size him up and judge him appropriately. For far too long, Nigerians have been apathetic towards governance, towards promises made, and what is achieved. So we must begin now to take note of all of these and then hold him to account if and when he eventually becomes.
All right, quickly before you comment, let's just get what we have in the front pages of The Nation and The Guardian newspaper. Quickly, The Nation newspaper, Tinubu's pledge to Nigerians, I will not disappoint you. My certificate of return is a World Cup trophy, President-elect says in Lagos. Obey Supreme Court judgment to Naira now. Legal giant tell Buhari. PDP leaders to picket INEC office over poll result. Rainstorm destroys 105 houses in Ekiti community. And then we still have down there parties realign ahead Saturday's governorship election. Nigeria debt hit 50 trillion naira. And then let's see what we have on the front page of the Guardian newspaper. E-payment channels fails stress test despite banks 901 billion naira profit. And we have a lot of riders there. No respite from apps. USSD platform has failed reaches peak after 100 billion naira investment. Concerned as hackers wipe 2.9 billion naira from fintech firm. And then up there, 2023 elections allow legal process take course. U.S. government urges Nigerians. Boko Haram adopts 7 villages in Borno. Obaseki accuses Oshomole of impeachment plot. And down there, still on Naira redesign, Buhari CBN yet to respond to Supreme Court ruling 3 days after. Okay, quickly, Manuel.
All right, thank you. I want to go back to where we read before now about what the NEMA is telling Nigerians, that prepare for severe flooding. NEMA warns Nigeria. Being someone that comes from a flooding area, I come from a rural area where we experience floods all the time. Like last year, if you see the videos we recorded, we were we lost a whole lot of things to this flood every year. And I don't think there's something the federal government is doing to stop the flooding. In my own opinion, I think there's something that can be done to manage this issue of flooding every year. And there are people that is their place, they live there, there's nothing they can do, they cannot relocate from that place. And government knows what to do, but they fail to do it because some people are benefiting from all that. I just think instead of warning Nigeria every year that flood is coming, they should think of how to manage and reduce this flooding that affects people of our areas. Especially in this Anambra we are now, in the area of Anambra West, Ayamelemu, Anambra East, Awka North here, Obaru, all these places that normally have flood, there is something we can do to manage those places and the flood will reduce. That is my contribution.
Thank you so much for that. Emeka, let's also see that big story in the front page of the Guardian newspaper. E-payment channels fail stress tests despite banks' 901 billion naira profit. And one of the writers is talking about hackers, why 2.9 billion from a fintech. Yes, I don't want to call the name, but from the paper they just said from a fintech firm. Wow.
Well, these are some of the challenges of the moment, right? You may not be able to take that away, and it is not something that is peculiar to Nigeria, right? It is a global phenomenon, the issue of, in fact, if you ask me, I don't even think you have as many hackers in Nigeria as you have in some other climes, right? But then we continue to improve on our technology and what have you. It's a new phase, and so its challenges will be there. I'm sure we're going to overcome them over time. Now, one point it is important that I stress is that even though the banks make a whole lot of profit, they do not seem to be committed to improving on their infrastructure, right? So as to make this new era seamless and less stressful for Nigerians. And that, I think, has been one of the major reasons many Nigerians, the new policy Naira redesigning and withdrawal of cash from the system, does not sit well with many Nigerians. I tell you that only a couple, like 2 days ago, right, I went to shop and then I made a payment. I had to wait there for over 30 minutes.
30 minutes is more.
Okay.
Sometimes you can wait 2 hours.
So
the alert will not come, and they will tell you, if you didn't see the alert, you're not going.
That's it. It is bewildering and it is stressful. You would not want to, quality time that you should invest in doing some of the stuff. You have to stay somewhere and then wait for your vendor to get an alert before you're let off the hook. It is just not right. So I would want to think that the CBN should compel the banks to improve on their infrastructure, right? They make the money. In fact, one of the many implications of the new policy is that it puts more profits in the wallets of the banks. And then the owners of the e-channels, right? Because you are making a lot of transactions via the e-platforms, right? As against direct exchange of cash. In fact, many may not have considered the fact that at some point some persons are going to begin to lose their jobs.
Bank are
going to begin to lose their jobs. People
get away some
issues of direct payment of cash, and there will be job loss as it affects that. So if banks are making all the profit, why would they not want to? In fact, you would observe that every December, just before the Christmas, the Yuletide, right, you have banks send you messages saying that you should please chill and that they would be doing an upgrade, because they realize that during that season a whole lot of transactions will go on. So why did they not see this coming
and do it before them,
so that people, transactions are more seamless, they didn't do that, and so that has landed us in this quagmire that we are. So I want to think that the CBN and other agencies would compel the banks to invest heavily on their infrastructure and make this. And then also, if they do that, in like vein, they would want to protect their systems well enough so that you don't have hackers doing them, damage here and there.
Again, on that issue of hackers, what I also think that the bank should also be sending their technology, that is their tech men, to training, that's security training, because hackers are being trained on how to hack. Then companies and institutions are training their staffs on how to manage those, that is how to secure their own. So at least you invest in issue of innovation, that is to send your staffs to training to learn how to manage those things so that it won't be reoccurring. So that is also.
All right, quickly, last papers this morning are Daily Trust and Nigerian Tribune. Daily Trust, old Naira note, Nigerians await decision, lament hardships. That's a big story in front page of the Daily Trust newspaper. And we have traders reject notes, demands government compliance. Order Apex Bank now under Governor urges Buhari presidency, CBN silent. And then ISWAP kills 200 Boko Haram terrorist families in clash. Bandits kill Kano village head, Zamfara DPO and inspector, and also vigilante. Analysts seek petrol subsidy removal, tax and exchange rate reform. And then in front page of Nigerian Tribune, PDP to protest at INEC, direct members to dress in black. Many homeless as rainstorm blows roofs off buildings in Ekiti. Labour Party in Oyo adults marking day. Then can still see up there, February 25th presidential election failed to meet Nigeria's expectation, U.S. ambassador. Of course, we've seen that in almost all the papers this morning. So quickly, let's just analyze what we have in the front pages.
Labour Party in Oyo. Okay, the move by the party to adopt Governor Makinde of the PDP. You must note that. Recall that going into this election, as soon as Mr. Peter Obi was adopted, got the ticket of the Labour Party, a whole lot of people, bought into it. But even at that, the party does not have candidates spread all over the country, regardless of the massive support it enjoys, especially from the youths. And so, in a place like Oyo State, choosing to back Governor Makinde, I think, is a plus for the governor. And if you also recall that within the party, within the PDP in Oyo State, there appears to be a division. There is the other faction which does not seem to support the sitting governor. So that if things go right, I think the adoption of Governor Makinde by the Labour Party will be a big boost for the sitting governor, and that may very well, resolve in his electoral victory come Saturday.
Thank you so much. Emmanuel, let's quickly talk on the high rate of insecurity. We thought that, before election, we stopped hearing about bandits, kidnappers, and, terrorists killing people. But now it has surfaced again, talking about bandits killing Kano village head, Zamfara, DPO, inspector, vigilante, and destroying so many families up there.
When I want to talk about this insecurity, security issues is not what is being talked on national TV or anything like that, but in the issue of security and insecurity in Nigeria, what is happening to us is around and within us. The Boko Haram, the ISWAP, and any other a terrorist group you see in Nigeria are part of Nigeria, and they have their sponsors here in Nigeria. So once the sponsors tells them this is what we want to go into this, we don't need disturbance, they will stop. And sometimes I look at this insecurity, most of the insecurity in the north, as political some issues. I see it as a political threat and issues.
On the issue of security, to my mind, you will recall that only recently, like you rightly said, we stopped hearing of the menace of bandits and what have you. I did say much earlier that the redesigning, the new policy, cash policy introduced by the CBN comes with this plethora of what benefits, right? And one of them is that it is going to drag down what the occurrence of what such as security issues, kidnapping and banditry and what have you. Because how do they operate, right? They get people kidnapped and then demand for ransom in cash, right? The implication of this policy is that by withdrawing cash largely from the economy, such persons are going to be unable to get flow of cash flow, right? And that will, to a great degree, bring down the issue of kidnappings and what have you. At the moment, the challenges could be there, right? But in the long run, we are going to get there. Are these issues political? Sometimes yes, but the danger in explaining it away on account of politics alone is that you may not be able to look at all the sides, and by the time you realize it, a great deal of damage has been done. I cannot understand why 8 years down the line, this administration at the center, which came in on the mantra of fixing our security challenges, has failed to achieve that. In fact, more than ever before, the issue has tended to escalate beyond its frontiers earlier. So it signposts the failures of this administration. And like I said, if you have one of the kingmakers and a major stakeholder in that administration wanting to take over, you begin to imagine and ask yourself what will actually change in the real sense.
All right, well, then we want to say a very big thank you to both of you for joining us on Press Review this morning. Thank you so much, Emeka Rao. Emeka Rao is a public affairs analyst. Thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.
And also to you, Emmanuel Igwebike Mbechi. Thank you for being part of the show.
Thank you so much.
Well, that's it in Press Review this morning. Thank you so much for joining us. And our callers, thank you so much for, joining us in the conversation this morning. We're taking a short break, but we'll see you on the other side. Stay with us.